I'm excited to launch this podcast channel and have my first guest, which is Carolyne Gaithuma from Kenya. And Carolyne is a transformational coach and communication trainer. So thank you, Carolyne, for being here and being the
Thank
first
you
guest
for
on
having
my
me.
podcast.
Oh, thank you.
And I wish for you to introduce yourself, tell us a bit of the work that you do and how it has impacted transformation in people.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, and it's so exciting to be the first guest. Thank you so much for the honors. So a bit about myself. So yeah, I'm Carolyne Gaithuma. I'm a transformation coach. I've been coaching for the last 9 years. I was also training coaches for a number of years, about 3 years, but now I'm just running my practice. I am also a public speaking trainer in a school called School of Public Speaking in Kenya. And I do a lot of public speaking for executives, for children, because I have a communication background. My degree is in communications, majoring in public relations. So I have been through different phases of my life, and I think that is what qualifies me for the work that I do, because I have been a PR practitioner. I have headed an operations department in a construction company. I've gone through depression. I'm a mother. I've had a couple of relationships that have gone south. And so all these experiences have sort of like qualified me to support people through the journey of transformation, because really transformation is about stepping into a new version of yourself, into a new mindset, into a new way of seeing reality, seeing yourself, and seeing your mission and your purpose. And so there are so many transitions that happen in a human life that bring us to the next level and the next level. And because I've gone through so many transitions, I have supported people through different transitions, whatever those may be, because I feel like everyone has their unique way of going through a life transition. And so my job as a transformation coach is really help you find your way, because you can't be with a coach or with a therapist forever, because life doesn't stop. You're all, as soon as you're done with this issue, this other issue arises. So my job is to help you to generate your own toolkit of going through life and going through the transitions in life. And so that's like a summary of what I do and who I am. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. I like how you said that it's about helping you to find your way, because majority of people make you dependent on the other person and to keep coming back.
Yeah.
But if someone can transform you or empower you in a way where you don't have the dependency, it helps you to navigate life a little bit better. So
yeah.
no, that's great. So you said you've been through a lot in life, right? Your own challenges in terms personally. Any specific moment in your life in your journey that actually drove you to do this work, like a particular moment that said, you know what, this is what I want to do and this is my purpose and my calling?
Okay. There's a particular moment that made me turn in the direction of my purpose and calling. But there's been a series of events that revealed to me what that was, because purpose is an ongoing thing. It's not something that you arrive at. It's a journey that you make. A lot of us think purpose is a destination you arrive at. Purpose it's a journey that you make. And so for me to turn to this journey, I went through depression. And it was psychotic depression. So I got institutionalized, I got medicated. But then after I left the hospital and came back home, I noticed that I was not in myself. I was not myself. It felt like I was zoned out. I couldn't really function properly. And so the first thing that I did is I stopped the medication. And when I stopped the medication, I remember there's a time I found myself in an existential crisis. I felt like I cannot go on without knowing why I'm here. Because I'd really tried so many things. I'd really felt so many things. And I started to ask myself, what's the point? Like, why am I doing all this? Why do I have to pay my bills? Why do I have to, everything that we do in life? I lost context. I was like, I just found myself going to school, paying bills, and I don't see the bigger picture. And so I had a conversation with God, which was a really interesting conversation because I called on him and I was like, at this point, I'm not even sure that you exist. But if you do exist, I'm sure you pretty much know why I'm here. So please send me that memo. Tell me why I'm here so that everything else can make sense. And so when I made that prayer, I was very serious. In fact, I said, I'm never going back to the rat race. I'm not going to that life of just running after nothing and not knowing what the whole point is. And I told him I didn't care if my kids starve. I'm just not gonna go back to that life again. So what happened after that was I started to have a series of very deep transformational experiences. Let me say visions, dreams, downloads that started to turn me in the direction of purpose into which later turned into a spiritual journey. And it had been all along. I think a lot of us don't understand that life itself is a spiritual journey. We just think a spiritual journey is just because you're mentioning God or you're doing something with, everything. The reason why we are here is because we are on a spiritual journey. And I didn't realize that until very much later. But that is how my journey started. So when I started getting visions and dreams and downloads, and I could hear a voice speaking to me, that is how I started taking actions that led me to coaching, that led me to therapy, that led me to healing, that led me to my spiritual path. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep because I mean, if you look at life, right, we've been programmed and conditioned to like, we need to work, we need to pay our bills, we need to do things. But also it's the way the society is designed, right? And it becomes that rat race of life where you wake up, you're doing the same thing every day. And then you come to that point in life where you're looking for that deeper meaning and purpose. But also you're wondering why you're here and, you just woke up, you're in this body and what does it mean for you, right? So you would say that was your spiritual awakening. It was the adversity and the struggle of that moment of what you went through that led to a purpose for you, that gave you more, what can I say, passion and drive in life. But what is your thoughts and your take on this notion of, I mean, the rest of the people are just living in that rat race and they are just like existing instead of actually living. And how can we discover our purpose more so that our life is driven to be much more meaningful? How would you like say that if you in your work and looking at society?
I think if there was one answer I would give to that, it would be to be really present in your own life and to be really honest with yourself. Because a lot of the times there's a lot of meaning to what's happening in our daily mundane life. Like even if you don't leave the house today, there is still so much meaning in what you do and what you don't do. But many times our attention is outward, it's out there. So even as we're having all these life experiences, we are not having our life experience from within our hearts. We are not seeing what is really happening in us as we do what we are doing. One of the things that I realized is the value, because I guess there's also a danger of when people get into the spiritual life, they're like, oh, the material world has no use, has no point. Let's just go and be sages in a forest or in a mountain somewhere. But there's a lot of value if you know how to look at it. And how I have learned to look at it is that you get some prompts from your heart to take a certain direction or to create something, to come up with a service, to create a product, to find a solution in the world. And many times we think that's the destination. So this thing I want to create is the destination. This business I want to build is the destination. We don't realize that the minute we say yes to building it, we start to grow. Something has to change within us as we are building what we are building. And that's the point. So the point is not the business or the end goal. The point is who you're becoming as you're growing this business, as you're growing this product or this service. And so many times, because we are not aware of that, when we fail, we feel like that's a bad thing. When it doesn't happen, we feel like that's a bad thing. The real place to look at is within yourself. What's happening within you? And that's why even all these creative ideas that we have, it's really important, even as spiritual people, for us to implement those things, because those are the things we are getting to grow us. Those are the opportunities we are getting to thrive and become a higher version of ourselves. So what I would say to somebody who is stuck in the rat race or who is thinking about the rat race, it's really not about what's happening out there. It's about what's happening inside of you. So for you to launch your spiritual journey or to just be present to it because it's already happening, is to be honest with yourself about your life experiences and to be present to them. Yeah.
No, that's deep. I mean, lots of us aren't honest about ourselves. And, the more authentic we are and the more honest we are with ourselves, it's the more clarity we can find within ourselves. But that's not easy if you're not ready to see reality for what it is, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So tell me, in your work, right? I know that previously you launched a project and it was called about Being Me Network. And maybe you can share a bit about what it's all about and how it is meant to bring about this transformation in our lives.
So Being Me Network is a baby that I gave birth to as a result of seeing what it took for me to even get to understand the things I understand, to own my journey, to walk my path. And I was like, a lot of people are struggling, firstly, because they do not have enough information. And so Being Me Network is a resource center. And I resource people to find the information they need to make the next steps in their journey. And the first thing that I launched under Being Me Network was a TV show. And the TV show that I produced was to help people get access to information about other modalities that can help them heal, transform, and get to higher versions of themselves. I realized that Nairobi, Kenya, is like a melting pot of so many modalities. And a lot of people just know therapy. They just know counseling. And they just think that that's the only thing that's out here for them. So I decided to interview different practitioners so that they can speak about how they help people in their journey of transformation, in their journey of healing. And it's so interesting, Marilyn, because I had 13 episodes of that show, and none of them was coaching or counseling. The things that people think are, I can go to coaching, I can go to counseling, those were not among my 13. The other 13 were so interesting, and I got body-based modalities, mind-based modalities, soul-based modalities. There's something for everyone. There are people who don't want to talk about what they've been through. You don't have to talk about what you've been through if you don't want to. But there's a modality out there for you that can help you heal in a way that is aligned to who you are. Even without talking, you can heal, Some people are more body-based than mind-based. And so those kind of modalities work for them. Other people are soul-based than mind-based and body-based, and there's something out there for them. So that's the first thing that I launched under Being Me. The second thing that I've launched is a program for emotional healing. And this program has been really, really successful as far as the testimonials are concerned. I've been doing not less than 30 people every month coming in to get some level of emotional healing. And the kind of emotional healing that we've been focusing on is one that starts with our connection with our bodies. Because I feel like when it comes to healing, before, like even 3 years before, a lot of people were emphasizing on the mental aspect of healing and on the spiritual aspect of healing. And it's like the body was put in the back and told, the body is gross, the body is like, secondary. But the body is actually primary because it is the vessel through which we experience life. It's like if you want to play some music, you will have to find an instrument, so that music which is in your head can be manifest as something that other people can experience and enjoy. So that's what this body is. The body is what facilitates the soul to experience life here. And so the body holds a lot of information about our truth, about where we are. If you listen to yourself right now, if you listen to your bodily sensations right now, that is the truth about your experience right now. And so that's what I've been doing and helping people reconnect with their bodies, feel safe in their bodies so that they can access their highest truth and express it. So those are the two things I've done. I have a lot planned and I'm just praying for God's grace to do it because it's a huge endeavor, because I feel like that's what the real crisis in this world is. The real crisis in this world is an identity crisis. A lot of people do not know who they truly are. And so I pray that Being Me will help people come to that.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's so true what you say, because most of us, it goes back to what you said, being present, because most of us live very unconsciously and we forget the body, the mind, and the healing connection. And when you've like going through the rat race of life and you're ignoring one and only focusing on the other, then when all these illnesses and everything that pops up in your body, it's also reflecting the state of mind and where you are at in your life. And that's so true, because we don't realize it and we don't see it. And then we think like a pill is going to fix it or something is going to fix it. And we just continue and continue, but we're not really stopping to pause, reflect, and be present in the moment to actually connect and see what's really going on. And that's very deep, because it makes the healing so much harder, but also it manifests so much more illnesses as well. So I think I basically I resonate with what you're saying. And, if you look at society today, there's a lot of mental challenges, and exactly what you said, people don't know how to be with themselves, or they don't know themselves. And that's why people are turning to alcohol, to drugs, or suicide. And can you share a bit on me, like, what are your thoughts around this? What is your thoughts around people that don't know how to be with themselves and that are turning to suicide and just don't know how to handle life? Because the first thing you do is when some challenge or something crop up in your life, you don't know how to deal with it and you want to turn to alcohol or drugs or something, and especially the youth. And, like you work with school children as well. So tell me, how can we learn more about how to handle these challenges of life, whether it's mental challenges or life challenges or suicide, and be more present instead of turning to some substance to help to deal with the situation of it?
I think the first thing that I've realized over many years that I've done this work is to identify what the real problem is, because a lot of the times we are trying to solve the secondary problem as if it's the primary problem. So it's like, how do I say? It's like you put a piece of candy in your mouth and you can't taste the candy, and you start thinking it's the candy, but you didn't remove the wrapper. Yeah. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to resolve a problem without, first of all, Albert Einstein said, I think it was him, I'm not 100%, but I think he said that if you get like 100 minutes to solve a problem, you spend 70 of those minutes understanding if you're given 70 minutes to answer a question, you spend like 40 minutes understanding the question. Yeah, so the question is more important than the answer because it will determine how you answer it. So for me, over the years, I've realized that people, most importantly, need to learn how to identify what the problem is. So let's say something happens in your life. Let's say you go through a breakup, like somebody comes and tells you, I don't think we can do this, it's over. A lot of people think that the problem is that the person has left them. And when they go to drink, when they go to whatever, that's what they're saying, that this is my problem, that I got left. But the real problem is their emotions that came up. And those emotions are what the problem is because I don't know how to process them. I don't know what to do with them. So you see now the problem is not out there on whatever is happening to you in your life or not happening. The problem is in here. And it's what's boiling up in here and what do I do with it? And that's why I actually started the emotional healing program. And the first week was really showing people that this is actually the problem because we live in denial, because we are living in a world where we're just projecting. If I feel something, I project out there and I say it's because of that. It's that person, it's that thing, is that, So identifying the problem as internal is the first step. And it takes a lot of courage to really see that and acknowledge that and accept that no matter what happens in my life, the problem is always internal. The problem is not out there. The problem is in there. So that then now the next step is, can I get tools and skills to manage what I feel inside? Because if I don't, then I will either live my life pushing it down so that it doesn't come up in the surface, or trying to manage life so that I don't feel that because I believe it's out there. So I want to manage people, I want to manage situations so that I don't feel a certain way. Instead of using the time and resources to feel what needs to be felt and to process it and let it go and remain with the wisdom that the whole emotional experience leaves you with. So learning the skills to manage, to feel, and to be present with emotions is the solution to all world problems. Because in reality, life is experienced inside of us in our emotions. That's where you're experiencing life. Everything you've ever experienced and you say it's good or bad, it was good or bad because of how you felt. It wasn't necessarily good or bad because of what happened or what didn't happen. It's because of how you felt. And that's why you find that a lot of people who are in stuff like addiction and mental illness, it's because they feel isolated. Because when you shut yourself down because of what you're feeling, you don't only close out the people outside from coming in, you also close yourself out of your own heart. And that isolation is what makes you feel the way you feel. So on top of the emotions you are feeling about a particular issue, now you have emotions about how you have dealt with those emotions. And so emotional mastery is the solution to world problems, I believe. Because if you look at even world leaders, what are they struggling with? Emotional mastery. They are dysregulated 80-year-olds in big bodies running countries. That's what our biggest problem is.
So would you say that it's also partly because we forgot the spiritual aspect of ourselves? Like we're living out a certain life experience and we got so caught up in it that we can't step out of it and just see it's an experience, right? Because we know we were born at a time, we're going to die at a time, and what happens in between, life is just an experience. And if we could live it like how we watch a movie, to see that, okay, good things going to happen, bad things going to happen, there's going to be sorrow, there's going to be happiness, all these things are going to happen. But if I can understand that it's just a transition of a life experience, it's not always going to be my reality, then that's one way of maybe stepping out of the whole thing and not getting drowned and caught up in that moment of just like heaviness.
Exactly. It's, as I said, it's an identity crisis, because where does it start? It starts from who we believe we are. If we believe we are our bodies, we believe we are our own concepts of who we are, we believe we are our experiences and our emotions, then what happens is attachment. And when we get attached, then we suffer, because we develop aversion also, aversion of whatever we don't want, attachment to what we want. And remember, all these things are temporary. Things are coming and going. So imagine you're clinging to something that won't be there tomorrow, or you're pushing something will surely come tomorrow. You're pushing against it, So you suffer because you're just running up and down like a flag being carried by the wind. You're just left, right, and you're not stable and anchored in who you are. You're just running after experiences, you're running after ideas and concepts, and that is what causes suffering. Now, what that does, it creates a cycle, because it enforces that false sense of self. It enforces, now you start to build an identity around how you went through, what you went through, or what you didn't go through. You reaffirm that, and you start to become a victim of life. You start to create layers and layers around who you actually are. And that plunges you deeper into the abyss of ignorance, and suffering. Now, how you remove those layers, it's about remembering what you just said. I am not my experiences. I have gone through this. I desire to experience this, but that's not who I am. Then that now can send you on a quest of, then who am I? What remains constant after all these things have come and gone? Am I able to have a glimpse of the thing that remains constant? And you see, that needs a lot of presence. And that's why people are encouraged to meditate. That's why people are encouraged to have some space in their life or in their day where they are still, because you start to connect with that thing that does not change no matter what you go through. And the more you build awareness around it, the more you become alive to it, the more you become it. So there's a conversation I had with a friend. It was a podcast conversation as well. And an analogy came. So another thing that I do is that I see truths and life's insights in form of analogies. So I was saying, let's say you have a car, and you know your car, like it's this color, it's this license plate, it's this make, your car. And you're in your car, right? But something happens and you forget you're in your car. I don't know if you've ever like put your specs over here and forgotten they're here, and you're looking around them and around for them, and you can't find them. Same thing. So you're looking around, you've forgotten you're in your car, and you're like, I can't find my car. And you're going all over the place frantically looking for your car, and you can't find it. And the only reason you can't find it is because you're in it. That's the same thing. You're looking for yourself out there in the things of this world, in this experience, in this person, in this achievement, in this, acquisition, but you can't find yourself. You will never find yourself because you are inside yourself. So the thing that you can do is to start that journey of going within and saying, you know what? I want to discover what is that thing that is inside of me that animates this body, that makes me grounded in this body, so that I can connect with it, because that's really who I am. Now, when you start that journey, there's a detachment that begins to happen. You don't stop having experiences. You still have those experiences, negative and positive. You still have desires. You still have connections. You still have things you get and lose. but there's a different experience that happens because there's a distance now you're beginning to create between these things and who you are. So when you lose something, you don't feel like you've lost a part of yourself. Instead, you're like, oh, I've experienced a loss. How do I feel about it? What thoughts are coming up? What emotions are coming up? And then you come back to the stability within you, to the stillness within you. Now, that is what is called the spiritual journey. When you are living from that space of knowing and exploring the fact that you are within yourself and your journey is turned inward than outward. So that even if you do an outward thing, it gives you more information about who you are in the inside, as opposed to looking for yourself outward there. So that, I think, is what is most important, the detachment that needs to happen so that we can reconnect with who we really are. Because as long as we are thinking we are our experience, we are our character, we are our intellect, we totally lose sight of who we truly are.
So I think what you shared was really profound, being detached from the experiences we go through. It's almost being a witness, right? We would say in terms. So in that way, we don't get so caught up in the drama or the emotion of what's happening to us. And we can pause and reflect and understand what's really going on and then find a better way to respond to whatever's happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, I want to talk about another aspect where we look at alcohol and we look at substance abuse, right? The other abuse, I feel, social media, because there's a lot going out there. There's a lot of things that has no value, that's not productive. In every situation, there's good and bad to it, right? And there's equal good and equal bad in everything. So, do you think that, for this generation that's turning to artificial intelligence, that's the digital age of existence, do you think that it's also another form of escapism where we don't know how to be with ourselves? We need to be on our phone and on social media, even if it's watching something that has no value in our lives. And then we wonder why we haven't achieved our goals, or whether it's about trying to deal with life in a different way by isolating ourselves in our online presence instead of actually living life. So maybe you can share a bit on that, and in terms of the implications of it on our emotional health, because there's also good and there's also bad in it. So maybe you can share a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because I think it's just a matter of what are we sowing, because that's what we are reaping. Usually it's not really about what you're doing with your time or not doing with your time. Like the gadgets, the alcohol, the whatever are not of any substance in themselves. It's like we are the ones who give them the value that they have in our lives because of how we are using them and why we are using them. So I feel a lot of times something that can be very good and useful and valuable in our lives can be highly detrimental. And I feel like there are countless ways in which humans escape emotional turmoil. Like it can be social media, it can be food, it can be sex, it can be relationships, it can be alcohol and substances, it can be even religion, it can be, like so many. We've devised so many ways of escaping our inner world. And that is what makes something good or bad, what you're using it for. And it's not good or bad as per a moral code or some set societal expectation. It's about the outcome it gives you. And that's why I began by saying you need to be very present to your life and to be honest with yourself about why you're doing what you're doing and about the experiences you're having. Because sometimes you find that a lot of people are in escapism and they have convinced themselves that they're having fun. But in reality, if they look deeper into these experiences they're having, it's not fun, because on Monday they are regretting, they are sick, they are not feeling so good about interactions they had over the weekend because of, whatever was going on. So it's really, I think that is where we need to look at, because then we are going to streamline how we use whatever it is that we have created. Because if we don't do that, what happens is, if you're using social media to escape, for example, what happens when you use it? It creates more emotional turmoil. And so you need it more. And so you go there more, create more turmoil, come back. You're like, I can't stay in myself. I can't stay in my life. I have to run to the virtual world. You go to the virtual world and you create more turmoil. You've seen how much drama there is on social media. It's like we just put our emotional turmoil on there. Because whether it's social media, whether it's real relationships, whether the outside world, I tell my clients, the world outside of your eyes is a screen. And this screen is displaying your inner world. So what is populating your outer world really doesn't really matter. That's the illusion. That's Maya, What is real is what is inside of you. So if you can look inside of you and learn to decode what's happening inside of you by looking outside, then you can use the outside world as a way to the inside world. So what I would say is, don't focus so much. I've worked with many rehabs. I've worked in recovery coaching. And one of the things that one therapist told me, I think it was just before COVID, they told me they are fascinated that in all these years they've watched me work with alcoholics and people with substance abuse. They've never heard me telling them to stop. It has never been part of my conversation that this is wrong, you should stop it. Because, as I said earlier, we need to learn how to identify where the problem is. Usually these things are medicine. Somebody is aching somewhere. They have no capacity, no skills, no tools to deal with their emotional aches. And so they put something in their mouth, or they go shop, or they find a new relationship, or they go have more sex, or they get into a power struggle with someone, all to try and medicate themselves and heal the ache. So if we don't deal with the ache, everything else will land on closed ears. So I feel like all these things, it's good that there are people activating against this, against substance abuse, against social media addiction, against internet and phone addiction. But I feel like that's the second problem. Let's go to the first problem of, why are people having these aches in the first place? And let me tell you, Marilyn, I did a program on healing family dynamics by my work in rehabs, because I saw the people who bring people to rehabs are the ones who need to be in those rehabs. The sponsors are the ones who need help, because the one they're bringing to the rehab is actually the patient. They call them the identified patient in the family unit. And that's the one who is feeling the emotions of that family. But everyone else wants to stay in denial. Everyone else wants to pretend everything is okay. But this one who is medicating because they are feeling the weight of the dysfunction in the family is the one they make the problem, and they bring the person to the rehab. But this is the person that could actually tell them what is really wrong in this family, So you see, our perception of what the problem is what is the problem. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. Because if anybody's living in a dysfunction family situation, you know it's that.
Yeah.
Everybody's adding something to the situation, but nobody wants to be honest and see the reality of it. And so it gets pushed to one person, the one that's feeling the weight of it, and it's falling apart.
And guess what? Everyone else is dealing with the same pain in a different way. So you might not be the addict in the family, but you might be the overfunctional one. You might be the hero who's trying to get into everyone's business and save them. You might be the one that's enabling the addict. You might be the one that is over functioning and being ambitious and being rich so that you can create a face that this family is okay, you know? So there's all of us came from dysfunctional families, all of us. Like, there's no one who came from a functional family. And that is where the aches begin. Now, the issue is that it's somehow the way society is organized, it's like we are all in denial because we want to maintain this idealistic image of family and parents and thinking that it's going to solve stuff, but it makes things worse because it also doesn't free the people who started these families to heal. Because if we cannot see the issues they are dealing with that have caused us to have these emotional pains that we have to distract ourselves from, then we are all captives in this in this prison. And I personally feel like healing the family dynamic is really healing yourself and allowing yourself to see the truth of how your family has impacted you and how you are and what you're going through. Because it all goes back to there, because this psychological self that is attached to your experiences, that is attached to your achievements, was shaped within a family context. Who you are psychologically was shaped by that family. You know, you became the way you are to avoid some things in the family or to suppress some things or to deal with some things. That's why you became the way you are. And if you're not willing to see that, then you cannot unravel this personality. You can't unravel this mask that you've had, and so you can never uncover who you truly are.
Wow. It's such a perspective, but it's so true. You know, I mean, anybody knows it. It's true because we have this mask and we're ready to blame the other or put it on the other, but we never also take ownership, accountability for our role in this whole situation. You know, and it's not like we have all the answers or a blueprint, you know, because it's a journey, and it's a journey of discovering, unlearning, and relearning. But also, that journey can only begin of healing if we're really honest and truthful about the situation, but also being present, as you said, in this whole moment.
Exactly. And the other part of the equation that I usually support people with is the tools and the skills to process and to manage what you find, because it's like you're going into a cave. So look at the whole story like this. A soul gets born into a family and they come into this body and people start pasting their projections on this small baby. You're a man, you're a boy, you're this, you look like your grandmother, you act like this, you're supposed to do like this. If you don't do like this, this will happen. We can't give you love if you do like this. So all these things are being projected and pasted on this child. And by the time they are 2 years, they start to embody all that because they are on survival mode. They need to survive. So they need to embody all these things they are being shown so that they do not lack the love, affection, and acceptance that is required for them to survive because they can't make it on their own. But then that becomes like their default and they start to believe that this is who I am. And so the journey of coming back to who you are, it means to start telling yourself the truth. But when you tell yourself some truth, it doesn't feel so nice, you know? And so what do you do with these feelings that get uncovered when you start to discover that this person actually programmed you, that this person actually programmed you with fear and pain? And this person, you start again, people start creating projections. So they start saying, my mom is like this, my dad is like this. And you forget that they also went through the same experience, So they also do not know who they are. They also are lost. They don't have the skills to cope with the emotions. And so it's like passed down generations. So I share the skills and the tools that will help you when you uncover these deep pains that you went through, because for you to embody something, let's say, for example, as a child, you are ashamed about how you speak. Let's say, for example, you are told, people started telling you, I feel you speak like this, and making fun of you or maybe mocking you. You felt pain. And because of that pain, you start to embody a different way of being to save yourself from all this shame and mockery. So one day you start to notice that this is not who I am. Like I am a different person and this is how I express. A memory might come about what was happening in your childhood or whatever. And I feel that pain will come to the surface. Now, it's like the way life is designed, you have to go through the pain. It's like the pain is the gate man at a concert and they need to see your ticket and you must have bought the ticket to go into the concert. So it's like you can never access your true self if you're not willing to go through the pain of what it has been for you not being yourself. It's like not being yourself has caused you pain. And you must go through that pain so that you can access who you are. Now, I help you learn how to process that pain, how to go through the pain, how to go through that fire. Because if you don't go through that fire, no matter how much honest and authentic you had been up until that point, you have not completed the process. You cannot take a new action that is aligned to who you truly are. And remember, it's a continuous journey. It's not that you wake up today and you're like, oh, this is the truth of my experience. And you go through this feeling and you come out with a certain wisdom about who you are, about who God is, about who the world, what the world is. And that's the end. No, you find yourself in a new level and there's a new layer to peel off and on and on and on. And so that is the journey that we are all on. And part of what we are doing in the rat race and all that is distracting ourselves from doing that whole process. So instead of me sitting with what it means to be poor for me, what it means to lack and what it means to need from other people and what it means to ask, then I'd rather be hyper functional to ensure I never get poor. Because I'm doing all of that to avoid this work that I need to do, But when I do this work, then it really doesn't matter whether I get or I don't, because I know it doesn't remove or add anything to me. I am who I am. This is just an experience I'm having. So detachment only happens if you go to the other side of your pain and you actually see, wow, I'm still here. After my worst dream has come true, after my worst nightmare has come true, I'm still alive. And that was part of my experience. I've gone through all my worst fears. It's like my mind gets very creative to imagine what could possibly happen. And then I have to leave it. What if I lose this? Then I lose it. And I wake up on the other side, I'm like, I thought I would die. I didn't. I'm still alive. So who is this that has gone through this and come out on the other side? And that's how you step into higher and higher realizations of who you really are. So personal development is important, but then there's an aspect of spirituality that is really important that I share in my practice, because going through the fire, there only God can take you through the fire, or your higher power, however you see that. And that's where the merging happens between personal development, because personal development takes you all the way to the truth of, I have this pain in me, I have this thing. Spirituality carries you from there, going through the pain and having your eyes opened to who you are in that moment. So so there's that. I think you had asked that question about spirituality. So the personal development and spirituality merge because of that length of the process.
Wow, this has been so insightful. I mean, it's almost like giving you another perspective on how to be and see, but also not be so emotionally drowned in whatever's happening to you, because that's major challenges that people are going through. And that's why there's so much mental instability, and also depression and suicide and all these things are a reality, because we just don't know how to handle situations, So I think it's very profound. But Before we end off, and I'm so grateful to have you on this podcast and share your insights and your wisdom and your thoughts with us. But also, I mean, it's been a journey of learning for you, right? Each time you encounter somebody, each time you experience something. It's, we have to be strong as people who are involved in self-development or be a transformational coach or trying to help society in a way to transform or be more authentic and empowered. We have our moments where we also experience the other person's life challenges, and we have to be strong, because if you're not strong, you can't help somebody. So maybe share with us what makes you strong and keep you going on this path of this purpose that you have to serve the world in this way. And I mean, if you're not strong, you can't help others. You can fall with them. And, so you have to be strong in order to rise up on that level to be able to stand back and help another person. So share with me, what keeps you grounded? What keeps you strong? Because you also know the other side of the coin, because you've had your challenges and experiences in life of that depression and being on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, even as latest as 2 days ago, I had my own crisis, because life is happening in so many different ways, and every level you find yourself. I usually say every level has a devil. It's like there's a new devil for every new level. And so even if you had fought the devil of the previous level and you conquered and now you're in this level, don't think that that's the same devil you're going to meet. It will be a different devil. So for me, what has kept me grounded has been two things. One has been my spiritual path, because I know that I'm supported, I'm loved, I'm not alone, and my help is within me. It's not somewhere I have to run to, it's within me. So I just need to take a deep breath and just settle myself in that inner space that has peace. So I have cultivated that inner space that has peace, and I have given myself permission to be there even when there's a crisis, because I think a lot of people do not allow themselves any level of peace until the situation is resolved. It's like you're telling yourself, I will not have peace until I find a solution. No, sometimes is just to allow yourself to have peace even when the situation is still at its height, because then that realigns your mind to think outside the box, to think beyond your fear, to think beyond your victim state, to think beyond your limits. You can only give yourself access to that if you can find peace in that moment. So my spirituality gives me that. The other thing is, I figured out a long time ago that I'm never going to get done, and I cannot be wrong. So no matter what happens, I know that I can't get lost. I can't get wrong. It's just what it is, And also I stopped pressuring myself to get done with this, to get done with the healing, to get done with the transformation. I'm never getting done. It's a process of life itself. It's not just a process of Carolyne or this life. It's an ongoing process. And so I made peace with that. So when you make peace with the fact that this is how life is, sometimes we get so frustrated because we think it should be any other way, or we are comparing ourselves with another person's story as we see it. We forget that there's an internal experience they are having. They might have their ducks in a row when you look at them, but inside them, they are going through the same things you are. So I learned to accept that this is how it is, and there is no other way how it is. It's the way it is. So I accept that. Number two, I can't get done and I can't get it wrong. And number three, I found an anchor. So there's a place I can anchor. There's some practices I do to anchor me. So there's usually that awareness that I'm not in this alone. So no matter how much I have gone through, those three things have really helped me. And those are the things that I help. That's my toolkit. Yeah. So I help people create their own toolkit. So what is it that brings you to stability when you're in a crisis? What is it that helps you to remember the bigger picture in your own life? that makes this stop being so big, because something is as big as you make it, If you look at the biggest thing you've ever gone through, if you look back at it now, it's not as big as it was, but you made it so big in that moment because maybe you lost sight of the bigger picture, So I help people create a toolkit that will help them get into the right mind space to go through a crisis, to go through a challenge, to go through a transition. Because guess what? That's all you need. You don't need things to be aligned the way you want them to be. You just need you to be aligned with your highest place. You don't need things to work a certain way around you for you to have peace. You just need to be committed to your own inner peace no matter what's going on. And that's what I support people with, and that's what I do in my own life.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I mean, that's so true. And it's so beautiful because you can't control what's happening externally. Things will come, whatever it is, from health to financial to family to environmental problems, tornado, whatever, it will come. Death will even come, right? So all we can do is just be anchored in ourselves and in that moment, because it will give you that stability you need to handle whatever's coming. So, and it's a trial and error, right? We don't have the answers, we don't have the blueprint, but we take each moment as it comes, and we be present. Exactly. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate this. I appreciate your time. And thank you for being my first guest on my podcast. It's been so insightful. It's been a deep, meaningful conversation. And I hope that by putting this out there, whoever listens to us will find what they're looking for to help them to empower themselves, to inspire them in their life, but also to know that, there's other ways of living life and seeing life. And, there's people like you out there who are willing to take on that challenge to support, empower, and help and transform. And so thank you for the work that you are doing as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate for the work that you have started through this podcast. Deep, meaningful conversations are the thing that will get people from this point to that point, and to them accessing the truth that probably they did not access before, and also to transform and just become more authentic and more loving and more human beings, So it's really, I think the work that we are all doing, everybody has a small part to play. Everyone has a small thread to weave into this big mat that we are making. And so I see you and I appreciate you. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Carolyne. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Mindful Conversationalist, a podcast channel that connects with people and situations on a deeper level to have authentic conversations that really matter. It is meant to unravel consciousness that gives deeper insights to inspire or empower others spiritually and mentally in all avenues of life, whilst being fully present and engaged in meaningful conversations. So I hope you do enjoy them and find them insightful and may it help you in your life to inspire and empower you.